Welcome back, everybody. We're going to do the second half of the video by Epic History. This is Napoleon's first campaign, the second half. At the end of the first half, Napoleon had gotten himself in a bit of a tight spot. But he sees an opportunity. That was the last thing that happened. Was he had an unexpected chess move against him, but he sees an open opportunity here. So let's see what he does. Let's go ahead and jump into it.
Napoleon needs every man he can get, because in the midst of the crisis, he has spotted an opportunity. Kostanovich's advance has caught him off guard, but Lake Garda separates him from the rest of the Austrian army. Napoleon will concentrate his forces against Kostanovich, beat him in battle, then pivot again to take on Wurmser.
Yeah, so this is, I think, exactly where we stopped at the end of the first half. It seems like Napoleon always does this. He always finds a way to split enemy forces, and it doesn't look like, even if it looks like he's in a terrible position, the end goal, or that what it ends up looking like almost always, is this. Split forces, he takes out one, turns around and takes out the other. It's like, I don't know, it's like a really abbreviated, abridged Schlieffen plan that he's got, like, just constantly.
The French divisions are soon on the move. Kostanovich's troops reach Lonato, but here they encounter Massena's vanguard. The Austrians come under heavy attack, and with French reinforcements arriving, they have to pull back. The next day, the French retake Brescia, along with most of their supplies, sick and wounded. Then, Napoleon catches a lucky break. Wurmser has been on Massena's heels, harrying his rear guard as far as Peschiera. But now he receives reports there are French forces massing between him and Mantua. Mantua is his priority, so he swings south, away from Kostanovich, towards a city Napoleon has already abandoned. By the time Wurmser realizes his error, it's too late.
Yep, he has just totally left the other half of the army on an island.
He has gifted Napoleon 24 crucial hours. A blunder, for which he will pay dearly. The 3rd of August sees confused fighting west of Lake Garda. One French brigade slips through the wooded ravines unnoticed, straight into Salo, causing havoc behind the Austrian lines. But the Austrians repel 3 attacks on Gavardo, and all seems to be going well until their own advance meets Massena's division at Lonato. Massena's counterattack is led by the 32nd Demi Brigade, which is becoming known
That's a great picture. That's for sure going to be the thumbnail for this.
as one of the Army of Italy's most feared units. Bayonets only, Napoleon calls out, and you, 32nd, maintain your glorious reputation. The lead Austrian...
He's so good at that. He's so good at hyping his guys up. Man. But the quote earlier was kind of funny, like, that nothing's lost as long as courage remains. Is that what happened in Russia? Everybody ran out of courage?
Brigade is routed. Colonel Junot, though wounded 6 times, accepts their commander's surrender. Kostanovich's force has been mauled. Fearing for the rest of his command, and with no word from Wurmser, he decides he must march back around Lake Garda to rejoin the army. The same day, 15 miles to the south, General Augereau's division fights an aggressive rearguard action near Castiglione, keeping Wurmser at bay while Napoleon deals with Kostanovic. Augereau begins with a bold attack on General Liptay's vanguard, driving it back to high ground near Solferino.
When you look at the whole map that was up there just a second ago, Napoleon is not in a good spot. It looks like he has gotten caught in between a hammer and an anvil. You know, there's an army on each side of him. It looks so bad. It looks like he's in a terrible position. And then what's actually happening on the ground is one army's running to go to the other side of the lake because they think that's where they're going to meet up with the other half of this army. And then that army is running straight into the rear guard of this battle that's about to have the entire French army turn and face it. It looks like it should be so bad for the French in that situation, and yet it's not. They're able to again just fight one at a time, which is, you know, sort of their thing.
But here, Liptay receives steady reinforcements as the rest of the Austrian army begins to arrive. Augereau keeps up the pressure, preventing an Austrian advance. And though there's a late scare when enemy cavalry sweep around his left flank, they are unsupported and soon pull back. For Augereau and his men, it is a long day of heroic action against a superior force, one which Napoleon will never forget. 12 years later, as emperor, he will make Augereau Duke of Castiglione, and always remind his critics, he saved us that day. Nevertheless, by nightfall, Augereau's division is at breaking point. Our soldiers are exhausted from fatigue and hunger. If you don't send me reinforcements, I won't be able to hold out. Next morning, French troops renew the attack on Kostanovic and quickly discover he's beating a hasty retreat. A major disaster is narrowly avoided when 3 lost Austrian battalions stumble into Napoleon's headquarters at Lonato. They call on the general to surrender. Napoleon responds by loudly ordering his grenadiers and artillery into position, then demands that the Austrians surrender to him or be put to the sword. It's a bold bluff. Few of his troops are anywhere near.
Yeah.
But the Austrians meekly lay down their arms. As Napoleon swings his army round to take on Wurmser, the Austrian must decide whether to stand his ground or fall back to a stronger line behind the Mincio River. He chooses to stay put.
There's no reason for it now because the other half of the army is gone. They're going around. So if you back up, you get a better fortified defensive position, you might be able to hold out on the other side of the river. But, you know, communication's poor, and man, like I said, it's just they should have had they should have had their run of the place whenever they got actually into that position. You have an army on each side, you know, you hit them from both sides and smash them. And then it ends up Napoleon smashes both of them. And even gets the group of guys that stumble into his, you know, into where he's got camp. It's just wild.
By engaging Napoleon, he hopes to buy time for Kostanovic to regroup and resume his advance, and for Mantua to be resupplied. His reasoning is sound,
but he's not coming. He's going the other way.
His intelligence is out of date, and he's underestimated the speed at which Napoleon's forces will move.
Yeah, that happens a lot.
At dawn on the 5th of August, the Austrian army is 4 miles east of Castiglione, formed up in 2 lines. Its northern flank anchored on the village of Solferino, its southern flank on a well-fortified redoubt at Monte Medolano. Napoleon faces him with Massena's division in the north, Augereau's division in the centre, and Kilmain's cavalry in the south. He's also formed an elite unit of grenadiers and cavalry to be held back for the decisive moment. Napoleon doesn't seem to have much of an advantage. But he has 10,000 more troops converging rapidly on the battlefield. 5,000 under General Despinois, marching from Brescia. 5,000 more under General Fiorella, coming from the south. To buy time for these reinforcements to arrive, and to lure Wurmser out of position, Napoleon orders Massena and Augereau to attack. There is a short exchange of fire. Then the French begin a feigned retreat. The Austrians take the bait, some units advancing off the high ground, while Wurmser extends his right wing, looking to outflank Massena's division. Around 9 a.m., the sound of gunfire from the south alerts both sides to Fiorella's arrival, behind the Austrian left flank. Napoleon immediately orders Augereau and Massena to attack again, in earnest. Despinois' troops arrive to join the assault. But Napoleon has sprung his trap too early. Wurmser is not yet fully committed and reacts swiftly. He organizes a new line to fend off Fiorella and hurriedly recalls his right wing. But he cannot save the redoubt at Monte Medolano. Napoleon's aide-de-camp, Major Marmont, leads forward a battery to blast the position. His guns open a devastating cannonade, clearing the way for an attack. Around 10 a.m., the reserve grenadiers charge forward with bayonets fixed, sweeping the Austrians off the hill. Meanwhile, to the north, the 4th and 5th Demi-Brigades surge onto the Solferino heights and seize the redoubt before Pozzacatana.
Jeez.
Carried forward by their momentum, they storm the Solferino tower and village beyond, the shaken enemy falling back in disarray. The Austrians are hard-pressed along the line.
Yeah, so they've gotten pushed back. The left flank is basically gone. Not gone, it's still there, but the line, the initial line is gone. The right one is too. I'm trying to think of like what the move is here. I feel like you've got to start backing up. You've got to start backing up at least at the center. If you're going to try to hold here and not just put out a rear guard and have like a fighting retreat. If you're going to try to hold some semblance of a line, you've got to pull the center out, or you've got to pull the center back and get some sort of stability on that line, because you're sort of getting encircled here. That could, it looks like it could be, super dangerous very quickly. So, yeah, the only thing I can really think of to do here defensively is, other than just to do a fighting retreat, is to pull the center back and try to you still have high ground. You've lost your best positioning, but you still have high ground. If you want to continue it, I feel like you could. You would just have to establish new positions, and certainly you would have to pull the center of your line back. I don't know. What do you guys think? Or am I crazy? Is there really nothing you can do here, and you need to just get the hell out of Dodge?
And now French cavalry and Fiorella's troops threaten to cut off their retreat.
Yeah.
While Napoleon is active, energized, urging troops forward, Wurmser seems to go into shock. A French émigré serving with him recalled, "He watched without seeing anything, saying anything, hearing anything. This brave old man, his head covered with white hair, did not think anymore." Finally, Wurmser orders a general retreat, back across the Mincio River, covered by their cavalry and some late Austrian reinforcements. The French pursuit quickly peters out. After a week of forced marches in stifling heat, with little to eat or drink, Napoleon's men are close to collapse. But their general is content with what they have achieved. Wurmser's army finds temporary refuge behind the Mincio River. But Napoleon immediately resumes the attack. Massena is sent north to relieve the French garrison at Peschiera and threaten Wurmser's line of retreat. The Austrian general has had enough. After ensuring the garrison of Mantua is fully resupplied and reinforced, he begins his withdrawal to the Tyrol to regroup and rethink. The French nip at his heels all the way. Napoleon has just endured his toughest challenge yet as an army commander. And though initially wrong-footed by his adversary, he's displayed brilliant flexibility and his usual energy to weather the crisis and then triumph. But Mantua remains the key to Italy. And while it stands unconquered, the Austrians will do everything in their power to save it. Wurmser will be back, and when he returns, he'll find himself on a collision course with Napoleon, as he launches his own attack on Austria itself.
Yeah, Austria just has a hard time altogether with Napoleon. It's, you know, I feel like every other day during the Napoleonic Wars, Napoleon is threatening Vienna. Yeah, for all intents and purposes, like Napoleon should have gotten smashed there. The setup was great for the Austrians. Everything was there, and he ends up totally not demolishing in terms of manpower, but in terms of morale, certainly. Just totally demolishing the Austrians in a position where, again, he should have gotten smashed. I mean, it was not a good position. Yeah, he's awesome, and the Austrians are learning early on that he is going to be the biggest thorn in their side ever for the next whole little bit. So they're gonna get used to this feeling. But all right, that was the last half of Napoleon's first campaign. Great video. As always, like, comment, subscribe. Help me keep building the channel over here, and I will see you all next time.